Hello, welcome back to my channel, and welcome back to one of my favorite videos to make. And that is my reading journal wrap up art process video. I don't really have a good short way to say what I'm talking about, but for a couple of months there, every month I was going into this little notebook that I made and creating a little art piece, a drawing, a painting, something to kind of capture or represent every book that I read in that month. And I fell off the wagon a little bit. I absolutely skipped out on doing any of the artwork for September and October, which I think I read like 16 books in those 2 months. So the farther behind I got, like the more impossible it seemed to catch up. So I decided, instead of trying to make my way through all 16 of those books, which felt like absolutely impossible, I would rather just do a pared down version where I picked just 5 books to create a little spread for, and I would share those with you, and that would be a lot more manageable, and like I might actually be able to do it, which I did. So I'm really excited to be doing this video again, where I get to walk you through 5 books that I read in the last 2 months, and I'll show you some of the art that I was able to make that evokes those books for me or whatever. This one was really fun. I did some new techniques and some of them went better than others, but overall it reminded me how much I love doing this project. So feeling like recommitted to carrying on, even though it is early in November and I have already finished a couple of books. So I'm gonna have to start like doing some easier things because a lot of these took me a long time. Anyway, without further ado, let me now please present to you my reading journal for the abridged months of September and October. Just go. The first book I chose is This Contested Land by Mackenzie Long. I spoke at length about this book in my nonfiction recommendation video, which I will link below, but if you missed that, this nonfiction book takes the reader on a journey to visit several sites in the US that have been designated as national monuments, and that have at some point been met with contention. These sites were designated by the federal government to preserve and protect something that can't be found anywhere else, from natural rock formations to habitats to species to sheer volume of biodiversity. The author explores what makes these places so special, as well as their cost, either to the locals or ranchers or the ecosystem or mining and logging companies. And I found it a fascinating read, and I really appreciated how the author took the time to hear multiple perspectives on these issues. It was so hard to find a photo that I could use as a reference from one of the amazing monuments discussed in this book that I felt I could actually paint, but this soft, serene landscape from Cascade-Siskiyou National Monument drew me in. I loved the composition with the water and the white flowers, and I think I captured a lot of what I loved about that photo, so that's success, right? And I rated this book 3 stars. The next book is Hester by Lori Lico Albanese. This book was inspired by The Scarlet Letter by Nathaniel Hawthorne, and it tells a fictional story of the woman who inspired that classic tale. Isabel moves to Salem from Scotland in the 1800s with her husband, and she hopes to make a life there out of her sewing. Her embroidery designs are unmatched, but she's haunted by the knowledge that her ancestor was tried as a witch, and now here she is in Salem, historically really bad place to be a witch. And she has synesthesia, which to some would certainly be considered witchcraft, especially once they have seen her amazing creations. So the story was much less about Nathaniel than it was about the attitudes of the time, the slave trade, being an immigrant alone in a new place, and of course there's some adultery going on. I loved this book. It was not what I expected, but in the best way. So for my art piece, I wanted to bring the embroidery themes out, but I'm not that skilled at it, and I wasn't feeling the risk right now as I'm trying to get caught up and get back into the swing of things. So I decided to just try my hand at a different kind of thread work that I've been looking at a lot lately. And so here's my attempt at sashiko, which is a visible mending technique originating in Japan. And it's meant to be beautiful, but also to strengthen the fabric that you're patching up. And it's so loosely tied to the book, but I did at least use scarlet thread. Anyway, I had a great time, and I love this technique, and I want to try it on some more things, and I gave this book 4 stars. The third book I chose to portray in my journal this round was The Complicities by Stacey D'Erasmo. This is the book that I have been searching for ever since I read The Glass Hotel and wished that there were more books about Ponzi schemes. Stacy came through. This book is about 3 women surrounding Alan, who ran a Ponzi scheme. And when it collapsed, his wife left him and moved to Cape Cod, where she tries to become a local and find some purpose and like small joy in life. What she really finds, though, is a whale. Then there's Lydia, Alan's second wife, with her belief in starting over and her faith and her kind of tragic history. And finally, we have Sylvia, Alan's mom, who he hasn't seen since he was a kid, but who thinks of him sometimes. The book asks questions about what it means to be complicit, and also there's some juicy stuff about greed and ego and self-deception. I loved these women. I loved their stories. Most of all, I loved the whale and everything it represented. I mean, wow. So obviously I drew a whale, and then I used some of these washi sticker sheets I have in the color blue to give him a background. I love to combine these stickers with drawn elements for this collage effect, and I'm so happy with how this turned out. I gave this book 5 stars. The next book I chose to portray in my journal is Mad Ship by Robin Hobb. Finally, it's here. I'm so happy I finally got to read this book. I loved it so much. Mad Ship is the second book in the Live Ship Traders series by Robin Hobb. This series is set in a place where there's a magical substance called wizard wood that you can only get from the rain wilds. And this wood is impervious to almost everything that can damage regular wood, and ships built from it come partly alive once 3 generations of a family have died on their decks. So I won't spoil the first one for you, don't worry. In this book, we return to some of our beloved characters from that first book, exactly where we left them. And there was a lot going on all over the world for these traders at the end of that book, and this one carries on in much the same way, following a number of perspectives, both old and new. This book gave us a much more in-depth look at what wizardwood actually is and what the Rainwild traders do up in those spooky little woods of theirs. It had me on the edge of my seat and laughing out loud. I love this series so much. I cannot wait to read the next one. So what could I draw for this but a sea serpent? I love these guys, and I really wanted to make it all twisted and tangled, so I decided to just give myself some more room by having the drawing come off the sides of the page. This was a really fun one to do, but oh my god, the amount of off-camera sketches of this guy's head, it was so hard. I gave this book 5 stars. And the final book I wanted to portray in this journal was Seasonal Fears by Seanan McGuire. This is the sequel to Middle Game, and it is also about alchemy. It's about Harry and Mel, 2 teens who grow up as close as 2 kids can be, despite the ominous threat of Mel's failing heart. This book looks at a different aspect of alchemy from Middle Game, more of a natural alchemy of the seasons. So we follow our dear sweet couple as they take a journey with a goofy little kid as their guide to find the place where they can claim their seasons and also save Mel's life. And if that sounds confusing, don't worry, it was. This book was not as good as the first one in this series, but I did really like learning this whole new side of Seanan's alchemical world, and I definitely am glad to have read it. In my journal, I was trying to come up with some symbol that I could draw to represent the story, as has been my method for most of these recent reads, but I couldn't really think of any one thing, so I decided I could just do something that really evoked a season strongly. So I painted the most fall thing I could think of, which was gourds, and then this background of a blue, like a true autumn blue sky. And I love these things. I'm really proud of them. I gave this book 4 stars. So there you have it, the 5 pieces of art that I created for the last 2 months of reading. I hope you enjoyed. I really am happy that I got back to this. It reminded me, or it like made me realize how much creativity has been missing from my life, at least in the last month especially. I've been feeling kind of bogged down and like not super, I don't know, like energized about anything, and getting to do these pieces of art, working on these little projects has given me like that energy back. I'm feeling a lot better. I'm feeling geared up. I'm feeling hyped. I'm just feeling better in general about like myself and my life. I don't know. It's amazing. It's amazing what a couple of little drawings can do. So I hope you enjoyed what I had to offer today, and I hope to be getting you this month's reading journal in a much more timely manner. But in the meantime, I'm still trying to post every single week, so make sure that you are subscribed so that you don't miss a video, and I really appreciate every like and every comment that you leave down below. So keep that up. Thank you so much. Feels great. And I will see you back here next week for another video.